You are late again, not 5 minutes late. A lifetime of 5 minutes late stacked into a pattern you have never bothered to explain to yourself. Somewhere, someone is waiting. They have been waiting for years. Welcome to the Stoic Compass. I am EPICTETUS, and today I am joined by Carl Jung and LAOZI. Today we are examining, what does always being late say about a person, and what can be done about it? Let us start with what lateness actually is. It is not a scheduling problem. It is not traffic. It is not the meeting that ran over. Lateness is a decision, made before you even put on your shoes, that your time is worth more than someone else's. You have decided, without saying it aloud, that the cost of their waiting is yours to impose. You have made yourself the exception to the agreement. That is not a quirk. That is a statement about how you see other people.
I think you are moving too fast to judgment, EPICTETUS. The chronically late person is not usually calculating their superiority over others. What I find more interesting is what they are avoiding. Lateness is almost always an exit from something, a hesitation at the threshold. One might ask, what happens to them internally in the moments before they are supposed to arrive somewhere? There is often anxiety there, or a kind of resistance that they themselves cannot name. The pattern of lateness may be less about arrogance and more about a wound that makes arrival feel dangerous in some way.
You are both already arguing about what the lateness means, but you have not asked what the lateness is. If someone is always late, that is simply what they do. It is consistent. It is reliable in its own way. The question worth sitting with is not why they are broken, but whether the pattern is serving something, and whether the person has ever honestly looked at what that something is.
LAOZI, that is a generous reading, and I am not interested in generous readings when people are being harmed. When you are late, someone else is standing on a street corner or sitting in a conference room burning through minutes of their one life waiting for you. That is not a pattern to observe neutrally. That is a behavior with a victim. The harm is real regardless of the inner architecture behind it.
I agree the harm is real, but if we only address the behavior without understanding what is driving it, we get compliance without change. The person vows to be on time, manages it for a week, and then slides back. And they feel worse about themselves than before, which often compounds whatever is underneath. The shadow does not disappear when you shame it. It goes deeper and becomes more powerful.
That is true, but there is also something in what EPICTETUS is pointing at that should not be sidestepped. When a person is consistently late, they have made a kind of arrangement with the world. The world will wait for me. They may not have chosen that arrangement consciously, but they have not refused it either. And at some point, refusing to see the arrangement is its own choice.
Exactly. That is the thing about habits of character. They do not arrive fully formed. You built this, not in one day, but across 100 small decisions where you chose your comfort over someone else's time. And the reason it continues is that no one has made it cost enough, or you have made the cost of changing feel larger than it is.
But what does it cost to change? That is actually the deeper question. Because for some people, being on time means being fully present. Walking into the room when it starts, not slipping in when the attention is already somewhere else. For someone who carries significant social anxiety or shame, that moment of arrival is loaded. They are not choosing to be inconsiderate. They are choosing, in a very primitive way, to protect themselves. The lateness is a defense, a poorly constructed one, but a defense nonetheless.
I have seen this too, the person who is never quite there at the beginning, who arrives when things are already moving, when the space is already full, when they can enter without being the point of entry. There is something in that worth noticing, not excusing, noticing, because you cannot change what you do not see.
Fine, I will grant you the psychology. But notice what both of you have done. You have made the late person the one who needs understanding. What about the people who are always on time? Who do the work of organizing themselves, of leaving early, of keeping their word about when they will appear? Are they not also making a statement about how they value others? Why do we not start there instead of excavating the defenses of the person who keeps failing?
Because understanding the person who keeps failing is how you help them stop failing. You are treating this like a moral verdict when it is more useful as a diagnostic. I'm not asking for sympathy for chronic lateness. I'm asking for precision. If you want to change the behavior, you have to understand what is maintaining it. Otherwise, you are just adding guilt to an already guilt-ridden pattern and wondering why nothing shifts.
There is also the question of what kind of change we are talking about. EPICTETUS wants the person to decide differently. You want them to understand themselves differently. But maybe the first step is neither of those. Maybe it is simply to stop pretending the pattern is accidental. The person who is always late knows they are always late. They are not surprised. They have explanations ready. The explanations are the problem, not the solution.
That is the clearest thing anyone has said. The explanations are the problem. Every story about traffic, about the previous meeting, about how time just gets away from you, that story is the mechanism that keeps the behavior intact. You cannot fix what you are still narrating away.
I would add only that some of those stories are not conscious fabrications. They are genuine distortions, the mind protecting itself from a recognition that would be painful. The person is not lying, they are defended. And defended people do not respond well to commands. They respond to something that creates enough safety to let the defense down.
Both of you keep circling the person as if they are stuck in place, but people change all the time without insight and without commands. Sometimes a person stops being late because one relationship made it real enough. One moment where they saw the face of someone they had kept waiting. Not an argument, not a rule, just a moment where the cost became visible, and they stopped.
That is true, but you cannot manufacture that moment. You can, however, stop manufacturing the conditions that prevent it. The person who is always late is also always the person who has never fully reckoned with what the lateness is. They have accepted the story. They have not looked at the person holding the watch on the other side.
And yet looking at that person requires a kind of ego strength, a willingness to tolerate guilt and remain present with it rather than convert it immediately into a new excuse. That is not trivial. For someone who is already fragile around themes of failure or disapproval, that confrontation can feel annihilating. The psyche will do almost anything to avoid annihilation.
You are describing someone who cannot bear to be wrong. That is a different problem than being late, and it may be the real one.
Now we are getting somewhere. Because if the real problem is the inability to be wrong, then the lateness is just where that problem shows up most visibly. And the solution is not a better calendar system. The solution is building the capacity to face the fact of the harm without collapsing into defense or self-punishment. Both of those, the defense and the punishment, are ways of avoiding the actual reckoning.
The self-punishment is underestimated here. Many chronically late people feel terrible about it. They apologize profusely, they promise to change, they feel shame. And that shame cycle is itself part of what makes the pattern so durable. Shame does not produce change, it produces exhaustion. And exhausted people do not restructure their behavior, they seek relief from the feeling.
So the shame becomes another form of lateness. You arrive at accountability briefly, then retreat before anything actually settles.
That is sharp, and it brings us back to the only practical territory. You can understand the shame cycle, you can understand the defense mechanism, and then you still have to decide, not once but on an ordinary Tuesday, to leave earlier than you think you need to. Understanding does not replace the decision, it may make the decision easier, but at some point the decision still has to be made.
I do not disagree with that. I only insist that for many people, the decision keeps failing because the understanding is not yet deep enough. They are deciding against something they have not fully seen. It is like trying to quit a habit while still denying you have it. The surface decision collapses back into the unexamined pattern.
You want understanding, you want decision. I want to know what someone is willing to stop pretending. That seems like the place where both of those things begin.
You have heard the machinery described from the outside. Now hear what it asks of you from the inside.
Chronic lateness is not a time management failure. It is a visibility problem. The pattern persists, not because you lack the ability to leave earlier, but because you have not yet looked honestly at what the lateness is doing for you. For some people, arriving late means arriving after the exposure, after the room has settled and attention is elsewhere. It is a strategy, unconscious and effective, for avoiding the moment of being seen walking in. For others, lateness is the one area where they quietly assert control in a life where they feel they have very little. For others still, it is simply that they have never been made to feel the full weight of what the waiting costs the person on the other side. None of these are excuses, they are origins. And origins matter because you cannot make a real decision about a behavior you have not honestly traced. The question to ask yourself is not, why am I always late, in the abstract? It is more specific than that. What is happening in your body in the 20 minutes before you are supposed to leave? What are you doing instead? What are you telling yourself about why it is still fine? That space between when you should leave and when you actually leave is where the pattern lives. Today, before a commitment you already know about, watch that window of time. Do not change it yet. Just watch what you do and what you tell yourself. Write one honest sentence about what you saw, not a judgment, not an excuse. Just what was actually there. That is where this begins.
Somewhere, someone is already calculating whether to invite you, whether to trust you, whether to keep waiting. They are doing this because of a pattern you have not yet decided to see. The debate about why is not the point. You know there is a gap between when you said you would arrive and when you actually do. That gap is a message you are sending, whether you intend it or not. The only question worth leaving with is this: is that the message you mean to send? If today's conversation has served you, take it further. Pay Attention by C. Tribute. 12 Lessons in the Practice of Seeing Clearly. Available now on Amazon.